Well, here we have a piece of new copper pipe that's been split lengthwise to show the inside. Notice how bright and shiny the inside surface is. Well, that isn't the way it remains for very long. As once it's exposed to water, it begins to corrode and it develops a film. And we have to have a very uniform protective film on the inside of the copper pipe to protect against corrosion.
So this is what the pipe is supposed to look like.
That's right.
So this film, what could damage this film and cause the corrosion?
Well, there's a number of factors we have to consider. One of the most important is the water itself. Water chemistry can affect pipe, but generally it will affect pipe in an entire area, like your neighbors and other houses in the same area. And have you asked anyone in your area about whether they've had the same problems?
I have. I've spoken to a couple of neighbors, and nobody seems to have the same situation.
So it's all your problem?
Yeah, pretty much.
Then we have to look at the things that can happen inside of your house.
Like what?
Well, one example is stagnation. Here is a piece of pipe in which we observe the corrosion product on the outside due to a leak. When we split the pipe and examine the inside, we see rows of pits. What happened in this case is the new pipe was installed and it was initially flush, but then it was allowed to remain stagnant for an extended period of time, several months. And right at the water line, inside the pipe, we have rows of pits.
So have you been leaving your water off for months at a time?
Not with 4 kids. My water's running all the time.
I don't think it's stagnation.
No.
So
what else we got?
Another possibility is high velocity and erosion corrosion. This is an example of that problem. The green material is the film. It has been eroded away.
Look at how it's just completely...
Right, there's little horseshoes where the water velocity has removed the material. Another related problem is where the ends of the pipe are not properly prepared in making solder joints. If the burr at the end of the pipe is not reamed to remove it, we have local turbulence, and that can cause another related erosion corrosion problem.
That is so important. Most people have no idea that on every tubing cutter there's this, a reaming tool made to be able to open up that pipe so you won't get an impediment.
That's right, very important.
All right, what else?
When excessive flux is applied on the inside of the joint, it can remain after the pipe is put in service. This sample shows a residue of flux on the inside just downstream from this soldered joint. Once the flow started, it picked up this residue and it redeposited it.
So each one of these are a pit point inside the pipe.
That's right.
Now, you mentioned something about what, cold or hot water pipe being more prevalent?
Cold water issues are much more prevalent. The reason being is in hot water systems, if you had excessive flux, the heat of the water melts it and carries it away.
It would dissolve it, right.
This section of pipe is a companion to our cold water sample, and it shows that there are no pits on the inside and the surface is very smooth.
Difference.
So with that, what do you think my situation is?
Well, since your problem is in the hot water piping, I don't expect that it's related to flux. And the only way we can really tell is, with your permission, I'd like to cut a piece of that pipe out, take it back to my laboratory, split it open, and analyze the inside and determine what's present and see if we can tell what is causing the problem.
Okay. I really look forward to finding out what my situation is. Thank you very much.
So our engineer takes our pipe back to his lab.
Yep.
What does he find out?
Well, here's the results right here. Here's a piece of the hot water pipe that we cut out. You can see the corrosion point on the outside. When the pipe is split, we see a nodule right here of corrosion, and that was in a variety of places. Under a high-powered microscope, here's the images that we see. You can see one of the nodules.
Right.
When that nodule is broken apart, you can see there's a pit corrosion point, and there was the presence of iron underneath it.
And the corrosion builds up around that little flake of iron.
That's right.
But how does the iron get into the system? Why is it in our hot water pipe?
Well, we suspected it was from the hot water heater, and we got really lucky about 2 weeks later.
How's that?
The water heater leaked.
Boy, now that's a plumber talking.
Well,
lucky that the water heater leaked.
It gave us a prop. Okay?
So
this is the actual water heater from that house.
Oh.
So I took a saw and I cut it apart.
Oh, Richard, this is horrific. That is horrible looking. What happened?
Well, this is a glass-lined water heater, glass-lined steel, actually. The tank itself is made out of steel on this side, and on this side is this enamel coating.
Oh, that's the glass they're talking about.
That's
and
right.
that actually just kind of wraps around in here over the steel?
That's right. Now, water, in the presence of oxygen, will always try to eat any metal.
Right.
So inside of any water heater will be a rod like this. This is a sacrificial anode rod that sits down into the water.
Sacrificial? Why
Right.
Sacrificial?
It's made out of magnesium. It's a less noble metal than the tank, so this is what gets eaten. Look what
Right.
ours looks like.
It's completely gone, completely
Absolutely.
eaten away.
Absolutely. Now, once that anode rod is gone, the water now has a veritable buffet. It can eat the entire tank, and that's what happened.
Right.
So this tank now starts leaking all this rust down into the bottom. Now what happens, every time you open up the hot water faucet, here comes the water filled with iron particles, leaves right here through this pipe, goes into the pipes, goes right up to the faucets upstairs. As soon as you turn the faucet off, what happens?
Those iron flakes.
Settle right down here, and where do they go? They come right down to that horizontal pipe down in the basement,
Right.
like right here.
Okay, so now I understand how they got into our pipe. What do we do about it?
Well, on the water heater, on a new installation, if you can change that anode rod every 3 to 5 years and stay on top of it, you can get a water heater to last a long time. If it's been more than 10 years, don't even bother with the water heater.
Okay.
If it's on the cold water side, you see pit corrosion, you would suspect flux.
Right.
So the pit point here. So you really have to decide is it on the hot or the cold. If it's on both, have your water tested.
So we're going to do some testing, and we want to do it at the cold tap, the hot tap,
That's right.
and the main.
And compare the three.
All right. Well, a lot of good lessons. And
Thank
you're right,
you.
we were lucky. It's not often that we get inside of a water heater.
Welcome to my world.